A river that has fed generations is being emptied not by its own people, but by strangers.
Pia vile wanachimba hiyo nini inaenda chini kabisa, shimo inakuwa ni sasa. Hiyo jiko yangu nikiweka kwa maji huwa haiwezi ifikia hapo chini vizuri.
A dredger boat, Chinese crews working the river from morning into darkness.
Mimi ningeomba kama serikali yetu warudishe China kwenye walitoka.
These people have not followed the due process and they are being protected by some people in government.
I don't think we will be in a position to give anybody a license to mine in River Yala or any river in Kenya.
This is River Yala, the river that originates from Nandi Hills and terminates in Lake Victoria. To the people who live along it, especially in Kakamega County, this river has always been three things: water, food, and gold. For generations, its banks have fed families, watered livestock, grown crops, and hidden in its bed and its walls the treasure this county is most famous for. But for more than a year now, the people of this river tell us it has been making a different sound. But to understand who is making it and how they were ever allowed to, you must first understand this county and what gold means to it. Kakamega County sits atop one of Kenya's richest gold deposits, drawing prospectors, investors, and mining companies from across the world in pursuit of the precious metal. But while the promise of gold often brings hopes of developments and prosperity, it has also left behind a trail of disputes over land, environmental distractions, and claims that local communities are being sidelined from decisions affecting their own resources. Because in this county, mining is not an industry, it is a way of life, a livelihood routine that many of families here are committed to. Families wake with it, sleep with it, and eat from it. The culture is so embedded with daily life that men are known to dig for gold in the land, in makeshift shafts and along riverbeds. And when Kakamega is mentioned, something else comes to mind: a scramble for the gold on and beneath their land. It is not new. For decades, this county has known what it means to sit on treasure. Prospectors have come and gone. Companies have staked their claims. Fences have gone up around land families have tilled for generations. And for decades, the same questions have followed the gold. Whose land is it? Whose gold is it? And who, in the end, walks away with the fortune? That is the battle that has always been fought on land, in boardrooms, in license applications, in public forums, a battle this county knows by heart. But while that old battle rages above ground, a new gold rush is underway. One with no boardrooms, no forums, and no paperwork anyone can find. It is happening inside the river, where the community owns no land, where there is no battle to fight, because the artisanal miners who have worked these waters for generations own nothing that can compete with what has arrived. A modern-day robbery taking shape slowly, with machinery never touched and never owned by the people themselves. But to understand this story and where it came from, let me take you to the very beginning. On May 26, 2026, we received a message, a tip-off, or really a blown whistle. Chinese nationals, a dredger, inside a public Kenyan river, and immediately after, the message was corroborated with images that followed. A vessel squirt, industrial, foreign to these waters in every sense of the word. A dredger boat sitting in the middle of River Yala. And so we planned our trip to Kakamega County to find out what exactly is happening in this river. Now, I want you to keep the two dates in mind. We received this message on May the 26th. We arrived at River Yala on June 10th. Hold on to those dates. They will become very, very important as we move on. We are then led down toward the water in Mukoyani village. This is where the Chinese crew has now moved to, and this is where we are told the dredging continues. River Yala rises from the Nandi Highlands and cuts across some of the richest gold-bearing ground in Western Kenya. And for the communities along its banks, this water is the backbone of this community. It is where they farm, where they fish, where their livestock drink, and for the artisanal miners, this is where they earn their daily bread. When we arrive, the dredger sits silent. The crew, we are told, has gone on a break. All along the stretch, the work never stops. Long-handled spades driven into the river walls and the bed beneath the water. The soil hauled up, dripping, washed, panned, and in the soil of the basin, if the day is kind, gold. It is called alluvial mining. Over centuries, rivers erode gold-bearing rock upstream, carrying the fragments down. Because gold is far denser than sand or gravel, it settles in predictable places, riverbeds, sandbars, floodplains. And because the mineral is already loose, a miner needs no blasting, no drilling, just a spade, a pan, and a strong back. It is the most accessible form of mining on earth, and under Kenya's Mining Act of 2016, artisanal mining is a preserve of Kenyan citizens. And it is here at the water's edge that we meet one of them, a miner who for security reasons sought anonymity.
So hii maji imekuwa ikitusaidia tangia 2009 ndio nilianza hii kazi ya mkoti kwa maji. Lakini hasa hiyo miaka yote yenye tunafanya ni kidogo pia yenye tunapata, si kitu mingi.
Before the Chinese came, he tells us a good day in this water could bring him 2,000 shillings, enough for his family, enough to keep going.
Wanachimba hiyo nini inaenda chini kabisa. Shimo inakuwa nini. Hasa hiyo jiko yangu nikiweka kwa maji, huwa haiwezi fikia hapo chini vizuri. So inapiti nachota tu yenye hao wanafanya. Yaani narudia yenye wanafanya. So mapato inakuwa ni kidogo.
So how exactly did they get here? The artisanal miners and residents tell us the same story almost word for word. According to them, the Chinese nationals arrived early last year and they did not come to the community. Rather, they went and spoke to the assistant chief. They then built a house, and on the water's edge, piece by piece, they constructed something this river had never seen.
Hao walikuja tu wakaongea na assistant chief, wakajenga pale nyumba hapo chini, wakaanza kuishi hapo wakichomelea hii kitu. Hii vitu ilitoka tu China, wakichomelea huko pale chini. Hasa vile iliisha, wakaanza kuchimba. Hasa watu wakawaletea kelele, wakipiga hiyo kitu na mawe. Ndio sasa wakasema wakalishe.
Tulifanya demonstration ya kama vijana. Tumefanya demonstration, tujanyamaza. Tulipojaribu kufanya hiyo mambo ya kuwauliza kwa nini hii mashini imekuja na sisi tutakula wapi, tuliitwa na viongozi wetu. Tulipoitwa wakatuambia hawa jamaa wameshapata barua kutoka juu, sisi hatuna njia ingine ya kuwasimamisha. Wakatuambia sasa sisi hatuna njia ingine. Sasa wakati ule walipotuambia hivyo, wakasema tupeana watu wawili tuone kama kutakuwa na maoni ya kutusaidia.
Only after the machine was already in the water, only after the complaints grew loud, was the community finally called to a meeting, and at the meeting came a promise.
Wakasema sijui watatengeneza hospitali hapa Mukoyani na hapa kwa sababu location. Sasa mpaka wa sasa hiyo hospitali hatujaiona, na hata mtu kama mimi huwa anajiuliza hiyo hospitali ikikuja itanisaidia na nini ama itatusaidia na nini? Na sasa serikali siko hapa, hata Shirumba unaenda hakuna dawa nini na nini. Hasa hiyo huwa najiuliza nani ataweka hapo madawa, nani atakuwa akiweka hapo madawa tukienda kutibiwa.
Sisi kama wananchi wamejua ya kwamba tuko maskini. wanakuja na shilingi 500, wanatafuta wale ambao wako wadhaifu, wanawapatia shilingi 500, alafu wanasimama na hao wanaunga mkono. Sasa wengine hatuna sei, kwa sababu wanajaribu kuchukua wale ambao wako na shida, wameshawapatia pesa kidogo, wameunga mkono.
Nobody in this village has ever seen the letter from above, but it ended every argument, and the 2 men who took the job are only named as sellouts, as everyone else is left to work around the machine as best as they can.
Tachimba wapi na hiyo kitu inafanya kazi? Sasa hatuwezi chimba. Hatuwezi, hata ukitembea hivi huwezi pata sisi kama tunachimba. Tutachimba namna gani? Wamechukua utawala wa kuchimba katikati wote. Wanachimba huko kisonga hivi mpaka kwa mwisho. Tena wanasonga mbele. Tena wanarudia hiyo yenye wamechimba, yenye wameosha, wanarudia hata tena ndani. So huwezi pata chochote.
Sisi ni kuna wake yetu ndio kidogo yetu na watoto wanakuwa. Sasa saa hii ukipeleka hivi saa hii sasa analima hivi. Sasa mjanga tena rudi nani wanakulima hapo pande shida. Kimu naongea tu watu fanye nini? Waende.
And according to the villagers, when the machine reaches the main bridge at Chavakali, it will have finished everything.
Hawa watu si wazuri, sababu ndio wakimaliza ndio wakienda wakimaliza huko juu unajua sasa tukoje huko, ukimaliza huko sasa watakoje huko juu, wanaanzia huku usiona, wanaanzia huko sasa wanaenda hivi, ikiisha mali itakani ishe unajua sasa watakoje huko. Hivi uzuri hao watu waende.
For miners and for communities here in Mokoyani village, these foreigners are not just mining for over 17 hours a day, they are pushing them out of the river that they earn a living. At around midday, our 3-hour wait ends. The crew emerges on a smaller boat and makes its way to the dredger, the start of what workers on site call their second shift. And as they proceed to their work on the dredger boat, our camera catches something no one wonders about. Look closely at that boat. A uniformed police officer with a pink cap on his hand comes in the open and washes his face, clearly in operation with the Chinese nationals. This image raises the very question that we will carry into every office, because if what is happening inside this river is lawful, why does it need police protection? And if the very officials deny protecting these foreigners, then who exactly assigned these officers to this boat to guard unauthorized mining activity? But before anyone answers that question, it is worth knowing what the law already says about this river, because 3 separate acts of parliament carry its laws. The Mining Act of 2016 settles ownership. It states that every mineral in Kenya, including those lying in the rivers, lakes and streams, belong to the Republic, held by the national government in trust for the people. The same act treats dredging as ordinary mining, requiring the same permits as any other extraction, and it obliges every permit holder to keep toxic waste out of rivers and to restore the land when mining ends. The Water Act of 2016 goes further to state that the water itself is vested in the national government in trust for the people, administered by the Water Resources Authority. A mining permit allows you to take the mineral, but only a separate authorization from the Water Resource Authority allows you to touch the riverbed in order to reach it. And the Land Act of 2012 covers the banks. It states that riparian land is held by the National Land Commission and is not available for private allocation. According to this, rivers are riparian lands and thus cannot be privately allocated to anyone. So to even dredge this river lawfully, an operator needs 3 approvals: a mining permit, a Water Resource Authority authorization, and an environmental license from NEMA, built on an impact assessment and genuine public participation. There is also one more line in the Mining Act, that the chairman of the county committee that recommends artisanal permits reads it like a verdict.
Alluvial mining, and in most cases it falls for us under the category of artisanal small-scale mining. And in this country, it is very explicit in the 2016 Mining Act
where artisanal mining is a preserve of the Kenyan citizens. So any foreigner involved in artisanal mining will be breaking the Kenyan law.
But it's not only the invasion that pains.
Hawa watu wameharibu mashamba yaliyo kwenye mto. Sasa hatuna faida hata ya kwenda mtoni, kwenda kuchota maji. Wanyama wetu wa juu wenye tunaishi na watakunywa wapi maji? Mimi mwenyewe ndaokopa kwenda kuchota maji hapo, kwa minajili imeenda na imeharibika. Sasa mimi ningeomba kama serikali yetu warudishe China kwenye walitoka, warudishe China.
Kama ni maji tulikuwa tunatumia kitambo, masamaki wameweka dawa zimekufa, tuwezi pata samaki. Hata kama ni kiboko wameshakimbia, wamepotea. Mtoto anajua kuogelea lakini hawezi kanyaka hapo sasa. Tunachungana na watoto wasikanyage huko chini.
They further allege the use of mercury on the dredger boat, a toxic metal that traps gold like a magnet, and one of the most dangerous substances that can ever enter a river. But after watching the fish die, the chairman of Kakamega County Artisanal Mining Committee points to a second chemical.
It is also true that sometime 2 months ago, we witnessed some fish in River Yala floating on top of the river. We couldn't exactly establish what was the cause, but we want to believe that in one way or another, that water should have been contaminated. We also have evidence that animals have died when they are getting water from River Yala at some points. Now, when that happens, it could be that some of the leaching plants are also releasing the chemical we call sodium cyanide in the water when it's still raw. And if the livestock will consume that water, they'll definitely die because sodium cyanide is very expensive.
And that matters far beyond this bank, because the Yala does not stop at Mukonyi. It runs on through Kakamega and Siaya. Past intake points, the government itself tells us it has tapped water for household drinking and on toward Lake Victoria. So why has nobody been able to prove what is in this water? Niva Mahiva, mechanical engineer and an executive board member at the Kenya Chamber of Mines, try to expound why these allegations are hard to track.
What is killing the aquatic life is not mercury. It's something worse than mercury. Now, we've also not tested it. We've also not tested it because you see how remote the area is. By the time you're getting a report, you're getting pictures, fishes floating on River Yala. It's a whole community now running to pick the fishes and go and eat them. And then you hear a cow died after taking the water on the same day. And now this is serious. But the river is flowing. When you take a test tomorrow, are you going to get anything? Because nobody reports immediately, this is happening and these are the specimens. You get it on social media, you do a follow-up. By the time you're getting to the scene, the river is flowing naturally and you're not seeing dead fish.
Now, remember the date I asked you to keep in mind, the 26th of May, the day the whistle blew. Within days of that message, according to the State Department for Mining, government investigators moved in on this river, an operation whose full details the Principal Secretary for Mining himself will lay out for you shortly. But hold that against this. On the 10th of June, days later, our cameras stood on this bank and filmed a foreign crew boarding that dredger for a second shift in the company of police officers. The people of this river are not surprised because, according to them, they watched this exact film a whole year earlier.
When we raided, we were with the artisanal mining chair, whom we had escalated the issue with. And when he escalated the issue, he went to the regional commandant, who brought us the rapid response unit. That's a very serious police unit. It was well coordinated. And the first thing we intercepted was the small boat that they would use to escape. Then we had them arrested. And when we had them arrested, the first thing that came up they didn't have the right papers. That is where the issue was taken up by the DCIO to immigration. But 2 weeks later, the guys were just back on the ground, like nothing happened. Like nothing happened. And until today, they are working like they own the place.
And according to the miners on this bank, the same pattern plays out even between the raids every time officials come calling from Nairobi.
Na zingine wanakuja wanasimamishwa, CID wametoka Nairobi, watu wa mining as wanakuja wakiongea, sisi hatujui wamesema nini. Inakuwa sasa ni shida, wao wameshakula, wanaenda tena wanawachiliwa, wanaanza kufanya.
According to the people who live here, enforcement has become a pause button and somebody keeps pressing play every time. There is one more thing the miners want us to understand about the meetings held in this village. It concerns the money and whose hands it comes from.
Tumekuwa na mikutano kadhaa, hata mimi nimekuwa katika hizo mikutano. Unakuta ya kwamba wanagawa pesa. Nasikia wanagawa 1,000 baada ya mshamaliza mkutano. Tukiwauliza hizi pesa zenye mnagawa inatoka hapo, nasema every mkutano huwa kuna pesa. Na wenye wanagawa sio wale ambao wenye wako kwa maji, hao wenye wako na mashini. Wenye wanagawa ni wa viongozi wetu. Ndio wanatukaia pesa. Wanapotukaia wanasema hamuna njia ingine, hao watu wameshapata barua.
And the foreigners in the water we soon discover are not alone on this river system. A short distance away near Bushiangala, the earth itself has been rearranged. Excavators, massive soil movement, and a small stream that feeds River Yala visibly shifted from its course. It is here that we meet Mary Kasiala. Mary has lived here since she got married. Her farm sits just across the road from her home.
Hiyo shamba kulikuwa na siku moja nikasutukia matinga ziko huko ng'ambo. Nikatoka hapa nikaenda huko. Nikauliza, na hii tinga mmeweka kwa jirani yangu? Mmepitishia kwa shamba yangu. Mliniuliza.
But not anymore.
Hata boundary hatujui ilikuwa wapi. Nini mtoni? Mmetoa mahali ilikuwa laini, mmepatilisha mmeweka mahali pengine. Hii shamba mmeiharibu. Mtanifanyia nini?
She demanded compensation, 250,000 shillings. She told us for the trespass and the damage.
Kwenda kwa mzungu, ananiambia anakupea 10,000 peke yake. Nikatoka huko nimekasirika kabisa. Mtoto wangu anakuja anaongea na Timothy. Anaambia Timothy, wacha tu tutaongea.
On that same ground, we find the man behind the machines. He gives his name only as Sam and tells us off camera that he is from Eritrea, a claim we cannot independently verify. But what we can see is right in front of us, a foreigner commanding local business laborers and local security, standing where a stream that feeds River Yala used to run. After weeks of soil movement, that stream is now gone. Sam does not deny much. His investment, according to him, has not been worth it. He says it has gone down the drain because the county government has finally caught up with him. And as we speak, the machines are being loaded onto trucks. He is moving to another area. Long before our cameras arrived, the men chosen to speak for artisanal miners were already raising the alarm. Watson Likoni represents Kakamega's young artisanal miners and serves as Secretary General of Ikolomani Gold Miners Limited. Ask him who stands behind the dredger, and he does not point at China. He points closer to home.
If you try to do the due diligence, it has a lot of political issues where it happens to be that our political leaders are included in the same River Yala alluvial mining under the dredger. When you have an engagement with the community people from River Yala, that is from locals, you will find that these people are being left behind as the main stakeholders of artisanal mining in terms of alluvial mining. Most of these people are complaining, one, they were never involved in public participation. 2, in the residues that are being found in River Yala, they are not even given anything, or be it employment or be it small duties or running errands in the same organization. On top of it, we've had a lot of time to engage the communal people, and you'll find that they are guarded with our interior system. So it is so hard for our people to interact with them or have another engagement that is very progressive.
And then he does the mathematics out loud.
The royalties from Kakamega is 14,000. You ask yourself a very sincere question. If the royalty of Kakamega County as a whole, we are getting 14,000 as royalties. Na dhahabu ambayo inachimbwa hapa Kakamega, let's use an example of pale River Yala. Watu wanachota dhahabu kilo 5 on daily basis. Hiyo dhahabu inaenda wapi?
And nobody disputes this. There is not a single government officer at that site to weigh, certify, or tax whatever leaves it.
Talking from an expert point of view, when you go to the licensing part, you are allowed 1 block. On the river, that is 600 meters. We've been on the ground, and you can see that the Chinese have moved over 2 kilometers. And it's not only 2, that is recent. Those guys were more than 5 kilometers away when I last saw them early this year. So what that is now informing everybody is that the license they are using, there's another big hand behind the scenes protecting them. Because whatever they are doing, when a local is trying to get a permit to work on the river, it becomes very difficult. How easy has it become for foreigners?
Which leaves one place where the truth should be written in black and white, the paper trail. Patrick Ligami went looking for it in the National Mining Cadastre, the official register of every license in Kenya.
We are aware of a miner there with a company called Particle Company that was granted 2 blocks. And when you talk about 2 blocks, then you are talking about a distance of almost 600 meters along the river. So we will want it to be confirmed very clearly on the cadastre from what locus of the river to which locus of the river are they supposed to operate, so that it is not infringing or trying to get into an area that is not theirs. Because River Yala runs all the way from Rift Valley and all the way to Nyanza. And so you cannot have 600 meters and want to purport you are operating on the entire river. That will be wrong. This matter has been escalated to the relevant officers. Like when the rapid response police came and they were taken somewhere, we didn't get a report why they were back. And I think the issue of the rapid response police was about the ones who are having the treasure on the water, River Yala, who, after checking the cadastre, those ones have been given 2 blocks to work on. So from where they start and end, that's another issue altogether that can only be dealt with by the State Department of Mining. But the ones who are removing and destroying the topography within the river basin, in fact, are of a lot of major concern to us. We have informed the relevant people, and we are still waiting for action to be taken. And it's surprising that almost 2 months down the line, these people are still working along the river.
And when we reviewed the National Mining Cadastre portal ourselves, we saw the same thing. No license issued for mining inside River Yala. And so the questions arise. How is it that machines have worked a public river in the open for so long with nothing on record? Who clears them? Who shields them? We put those questions to the authorities, beginning with the environmental regulator. Johanna Ruben is NEMA's County Director for Kakamega. And before we ask him about the yala, we ask him what the law demands of anyone who wants to mine in water, anyone at all.
NEMA expects that anyone who intends to undertake mining activities will do what we call an environmental impact assessment. An environmental impact assessment is basically a systematic procedure where you analyze the environment as is now, as well as the social components of the area where you intend to undertake your mining, document and identify the possible risks of the activity that is proposed. Environmental impact assessment is supposed to be done before commencing the project as well as before financing the project. Once you have identified the potential risks from your activities to the social and the environmental aspects of that given area, you do the assessment. Part of the assessment involves engaging the community through stakeholder engagement as well as public participation.
So we asked him about Bushiangala, the buried stream and Mary's drowned farm.
We went on site and just like I explained, we did our own preliminary assessment, and what we got out of the interaction was that there might have been a miscommunication in terms of the compliance process. The proponent had some compliance papers with other government agencies, but they had not submitted an environmental impact assessment application, and we had not yet issued a license. But we are aware that they had begun the process and had done public participation, including incorporating one of the cooperatives, the artisanal miners cooperatives within that area. So, because the law is the law, we issued orders that they suspend works until such a time that a decision is made. But in the interim, we also ordered them to restore the area because the proximity to, there's a stream that feeds River Yala. We ordered them to do restoration works on that site.
All his answers against what you have seen so far. He says no activity will take place. Yet on the 10th of June, our cameras filmed dredging underway at Mukonyi. He also says restoration was ordered. Yet at Bushiangala, we film machines relocating over a stream that is still buried. He says public participation was done. Yet resident after resident looked into our camera and told you nobody asked them anything. And when we press him further on those papers with other government agencies, he cannot tell us which papers or which agencies. The county government on its part distanced itself entirely.
But I have information with their people mining on River Yala. They are contaminating the water because that water there are various points where we have trapped it to be able to use for consumption in the households on Yala Butwe water project and other projects as well. So these people have not followed the due process and they are being protected by some people in government. I wouldn't want to mention, but it's not county government. And they have not followed due process because I've been following up with the State Department of Mining. And even according to the State Department of Mining, these people have not followed the due process of being allocated and they have not even paid a mining license. They claim they are prospecting, but if you look at the activities, they're actually carrying out mining activities.
We further asked her why police were protecting the foreigners if what they were doing was illegal.
That's why I told you they're being protected by some people. Don't understand why they have police protection, yet what they are doing is wrong. And you see, if one hand in government is saying go on, the other hand is saying don't. It creates confusion even amongst the Wananchi.
We also reached out to the Water Resources Authority, the only body that can lawfully authorize anyone to disturb a riverbed. At their offices in Kakamega, no one will give us an official reply. Instead, a source within the authority told us the agency could not respond because it takes and acts on recommendations from NEMA, and although it is aware of the operations on the Yala, it has received no document from NEMA to date. And that leaves one office, the one that signs every mining license in the Republic. In Nairobi, the Principal Secretary for Mining, Harry Kimtai, on his part, does not hesitate on the question of legality.
There is nobody who has submitted an application to undertake either exploration or mining through dredging of River Yala. I don't think we will be in a position to give anybody a license to mine in River Yala or any river in Kenya.
Why is that?
Because we give the license based on the blocks. So if you tell me that you want to take a river, number one, that's a river, right? So basically, unless the Water Resource Authority either want that company or that person to do trenching, and the process of doing trenching and removing maybe the soil that has blocked the rivers, and we'll give you what's called permits to extract gold from outside the river, not within the river. We don't even have regulations to allow you to do mining in our waters.
He further confirms that in late May and early June, within days of the whistleblower's message, his department dispatched investigators alongside the DCI, and 4 individuals were arrested on River Yala and charged before the Kakamega law courts. As it stands, Tan Bing, Tang Ping Sheng, Zhu Jianzhu, and Huang Bo, under case number CFE 850 of 2026, charged under the Mining Act and the Immigration Act and released on cash bond, and are not to do any mining activity inside River Yala. And according to him, the Kakamega arrests are part of a wider crackdown.
Where we have information of illegal mining taking place, we have arrested them and taken them to court. As we are speaking, I want to tell you that we have deported over 30 foreigners who are doing illegal mining. We've also taken several to court, and there are those who have been fined. They've been given, sentenced and given an option of a fine, and some of them have paid fines up to the tune of 20-25 million.
However, the timeline does not end with those arrests. We tell him what our cameras found on the 10th of June, days after his department's operation.
If we have given us now this information that you are aware they are still ongoing, it's the first time we are hearing, but as far as you're concerned, our county mining officers confirmed to us that there are no more the illegal Chinese doing the trenching in River Yala. But again, we'll send our teams to go and verify, and if possible, rearrest them if they are still doing the trenching. And that will lead to their bond being cancelled, and they will be put in pending the outcome of the case. I believe the courts will do justice.
Then comes the hardest question of this interview. The 2 police officers our cameras filmed on that boat.
The police are there to protect the property of Kenyans. As we speak, we all know that minerals are the assets or property of Kenya, and therefore their role is to protect. We've faced a lot of challenges. I agree that some of the officers have gone rogue. Instead of doing the right thing, they're doing the wrong thing. And our prayer is they should work with the State Department for Mining. They should verify, they should ask whether this person is licensed or not. And we'll be able to show them facts or give them evidence confirming that they have been licensed. So this is where the biggest challenge of mining is.
However, the man who holds the country's entire mining docket openly admits it. Officers have gone rogue, and the agencies meant to enforce this law are not playing their part. Notice too his choice of word, a prayer, not an order. The office that signs every mining license in Kenya is praying that police will check with it before standing guard over what it calls a crime, despite the PS confirming to us that the State Department has a dedicated police unit.
And we want also to thank our DCI unit and the whole criminal investigation directorate of our National Police Service. They have done a commendable job. Whenever information is received in regard to illegal mining, prompt action is taken.
So this is where the record stands tonight. The State Department for Mining says no application, no permit, no regulations. Simply, it's illegal. The Water Resource Authority, through our source, says no authorization has ever touched this riverbed. NEMA says no impact assessment was ever submitted and no license issued. The National Cadastre, checked by the permits chairman and reviewed by us, shows no license in the river. And the county government says the operations are protected, in its own minister's word, by the people in the national government. And so the questions pile up, one on top of the other. If no application has been filed, who fuels a machine that runs up to 17 hours a day? If 4 men are answering charges in a court of law, who is crewing the dredger our cameras filmed days later? If the county government is not protecting these operations and the national government is not protecting these operations, then who is? And who assigned armed officers to guard what the state itself calls a crime? 22 days. 22 days after I sat down with Principal Secretary Harry Kimtai, who looked straight into our cameras and assured Kenyans.
If we have given us now this information that you are aware they are still ongoing, it's the first time we're hearing, but as far as we're concerned, our county mining officers confirmed to us that there are no more the illegal Chinese doing the trenching in River Yala. But again, we'll send our teams to go and verify, and if possible, rearrest them if they are still doing the trenching. And that will lead to their bond being cancelled and they will be put in pending the outcome of the case.
On July 31st, we returned to the same site, and what we found raises even more questions than answers. There it is, the dredger, not abandoned, not seized, not under investigation, but fully operational. On board, 2 Kenyan workers continue with business as usual. Moments later, another resident is seen washing what appears to be ore freshly collected from the dredger. Then, our camera captures the moment. A Chinese national emerges from the dredger carrying a green bucket filled with what we suspect is freshly mined ore. In his other hand, a bag. He starts a smaller boat and calmly leaves the scene, flanked by the 2 Kenyan workers in orange life jackets. And as our cameras continue rolling, another Chinese national can be seen on the dredger in the background. These are not claims. These are the images. Images recorded 22 days after the government's assurance that action will be taken. So where is that action? Where are the arrests? Where is the enforcement? Where is the state that promised to stop this apparent illegality? Because if anything, the operation is uninterrupted, unshaken, untouched. And that leaves an even more disturbing question. Is this simply illegal mining or an illegal enterprise sustained by the silence, inaction or protection of those entrusted to stop it? Which brings us back to Principal Secretary Harry Kimtai. When you looked into our cameras and promised decisive action, did you genuinely intend to dismantle this operation? Or was assurance merely words crafted for the cameras, even as daylight robbery in River Yala continues uninterrupted? Because 22 days later, the evidence on the ground tells a very different story. Ashley Atieno, NTV, River Yala, Kakamega County.